Hello, guys. Nice of you all to thank you. Welcome to all of you. My name is Jeff Snyder. I am a autism neurodiversity self-advocate and public speaker and founder of Going the Distance. And tonight, we're gonna be doing something a little bit differently. Of course, as many of you know, this is the this is the 2-year anniversary of the COVID pandemic, and today we're going to talk about how the pandemic has affected us in the 2 years since it first started. So I have a panel of friends and colleagues here who will be discussing their experiences and how they are reflective on how things have gone in the 2 years since this whole ballyhoo nightmare began. So I'm going to go ahead and so we're all going to go around and introduce ourselves, and then we'll get started.
Do you want me to go first, Jeff?
Actually, I'm gonna hang on just a sec, Paul. I'm gonna have Natalie do it because this was also she was the one who brought up the idea for this roundtable. So Natalie, you can start. Or as I like to say, ladies first.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Hello, my name is Natalie Oden. I'm an actress and a model. And should I just start with my story, or should I allow everyone else to introduce themselves?
Let's just do introductions and then we can get started with.
Okay. Whoever would like to go next?
My name is Paul. I am a self-advocate and I reside in Melbourne, Florida.
Tom, David, or Mark?
Sure. I'll go next. I'm Tom Iland. I'm in Santa Clarita, California, just north of Los Angeles. I'm a certified human potential coach and a Toastmasters International accredited speaker. And I've written a book called Come to Life that I use as a basis for my Come to Life coaching services that I offer people on the autism spectrum.
David or Mark?
I'll go. I am David Sharif, global autism advocate, motivational speaker, magna cum laude graduate of Pace University with a BA in Poli-Sci and Peace and Justice Studies. I am the founder of my own platform, Venturing Incredible Abilities, where I share my autism success and world travels. I am a proud moderator with the Global Autism Project, and I am very grateful for my friendship with Jeff Snyder.
And I guess that leaves me. I'm Mark Fleming. I'm the owner of Equally Fit, a fitness studio that works primarily with individuals with disabilities.
Thank you. And also for where I'm from, I am from Seekonk, Massachusetts. I am near Providence, Rhode Island, and I am also I was also first diagnosed with autism at 4 months old, at 21 months old. And upon my graduation from high school in 2007, I became the first student with autism to have completed pre-K through grade 12 without coming from other towns or school districts. So tonight we're here to talk about, again, how COVID-19 has affected our lives as neurodiverse individuals in the 2 years since this whole nightmare began. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to share our own experiences with COVID, how it has impacted our lives, and how we will move on, how we will continue to live on with COVID being around us going forward. So so who here would like to go first and tell their story?
Ladies first.
You want to go first, Tom?
All right, I'll kick things off. So, well, actually, in preparation, for lack of a better term, for this pandemic, I think being a neurodiverse individual and having just taken coaching classes on Zoom before the pandemic hit, I feel like I'd prepared my entire life for this moment. I know that sounds a little bit far-fetched or odd, but I know it's what it's like to be by myself, to be isolated, to make my own fun, to hang out at home quite a bit. And so it took a little bit of strength once the shock wore off that, oh my gosh, we're all having to lock down and take all these precautions and do things we weren't really expecting before we had to really embrace the reality and do what we had to do to keep our lives moving forward. And in my book, I describe what it's like to be the hero in your life. And when it came to mask wearing, I like to pretend like I was some kind of superhero or like a ninja on some kind of mission or reconnaissance or something, or whenever I had to go out and do that. And also I wanted to make progress in some way, any way that I could, given what was happening. I wasn't able to meet people face to face, and I wasn't able to go the places that I really wanted to. I also saw my professional speaking business take a turn for the worse. But I was able to find some silver lining in the gray cloud when, having had my practice in Zoom rooms and my coaching classes, that I was able to connect with people in other states and even other countries to share my story and bring ourselves closer together, even though we were physically farther, more distant apart. So I found, even to this day, 2 years later, that I have more coaching clients and I still meet virtually with them, and I'm making a difference in any way that I can while this all goes on.
Well, that is great, Tom. I'm pretty sure that you've actually you've actually used Zoom to your advantage, even before the pandemic began, and that's one thing that I found is that, I mean, I was at first hesitant about Zoom because I was because back before COVID, the only thing you had to do was the only thing that you had to experience something was to be in person. But now that you and I and all of us here are using Zoom, we can be better connected in more ways than one. So that's one silver lining about this pandemic. And one thing I've always said about wearing a mask is that wearing a mask is no different than wearing your underwear. I mean, you don't want, nobody wants to, smell your bad breath or whatnot, but that's more, and it's also more about showing compassion, or, a human side of things. And it ain't just COVID that masks protect you. That mask can protect you from. It's, the common cold, it's, bronchitis and all that sort of stuff. So so again, that's where all the advantages come into play here. So, and I see we have a new guest. So,
Hey, George.
Hi, sorry I'm a little late. I'm just walking to my car right now. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the meeting.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. What do we want in the introduction?
Just tell us about yourself, your background.
Okay, well, my name is George Steves. I'm an actor on the autism spectrum. And if we're here to talk about how COVID changed all of our lives, I finally broke through the glass ceiling as a working actor. I booked a guest star on a TV show and a feature film in 2019. And guess what happened in 2020? And all the momentum that I had as an actor just died in that very moment.
Oh.
So that's been a little tough on the mental health during COVID. But other than that, just taking every opportunity I can. I wrote another one-man show. I wrote a short film. I'll be writing another one for this year's Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. So yeah, just do everything you can to stay active. That's definitely one thing I learned during COVID.
That's very nice. That's very nice, George. And, and you gotta, keep doing what you're doing. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's really all you can do. Just keep going.
mhm,
Or as Dory taught us all in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming.
yep, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Okay, who would like to tell their story next?
I can go.
Okay,
So what happened was, as I was getting the notice that something was going to come to us that is scientifically dangerous, I was hoping to continue working with the human services company that I began my employment with a month before the pandemic, but not knowing what would happen, I phone called my family. And with all of my skills for independence, there wasn't any worries about how I would get through this. But the first thing that I did was I got a plethora of groceries that would potentially last me for 2 weeks or more, because who knows if any of the places for goods and needs would be open. So I got the groceries that I needed to live well with and not keep shopping every day with. So the first priority that remained in my mind was health and taking care of myself. And then after I finished up the 3 or 4 weeks, I started going back to the store again, and one of my starting accomplishments was to experiment new food. I brought it home with me. And then before I was even trying to find other engagements in the autism community, which actually started with a podcast interview in August. So before that, I was doing movie nights. I was also doing live streams on social media during Autism Awareness Month. And the big thing that we have talked about and that everyone is lucky to have learned is that there is always another way to see others face to face when we're not in person. And through these Zooms, I've attended specific occasions with a summer camp that I went to, like Shabbat Fridays. I did Jewish holiday celebration through Zoom, and I set up Zoom calls on my birthday, and so did my forever and always BFF. And I managed my time very well, along with doing some other extra things like exercises that I will talk about later. But I will admit, when the pandemic began and with all the grocery shopping, I gained some weight, and that's not a good sign, but I found a way to take care of it. To take care of it.
wow. I mean, and for those of you who are watching this Zoom roundtable, I can understand where you're coming from, David, because I work in a grocery store myself, and it was and I got to tell you, in the days leading up to the start of the pandemic, it was borderline insanity with, people getting all the toilet paper and water and all that. And it was, working in a grocery store, it's really tough on anybody's mental health. But, with my mental health, it was, I think, a little more difficult. And for those of you who don't know, David is a very accomplished world traveler. And, I'm pretty sure, David, you had a lot of travel plans that were scrubbed because of the pandemic in 2020.
Well, I want to add on to that. I did not make any travel plans due to the fact that I was employed. And with all the traveling that I've done before that, it wasn't my intention until I started to feel comfortable. And quite frankly, I was selected to speak at a conference with Advanced LA that the CEO and founder of a nonprofit where I fulfilled my education with would happen. And it would happen in Los Angeles, right by the highway of Burbank and LA, where I have commuted from several times. And the conference was supposed to happen in early May, but then before that, I was supposed to speak in a panel back at Pace University, where I went to school, about autism and employment. And some workers from AHRC, the company that I work for, were also asked to come over and talk. But quite frankly, both of them were canceled. I was more excited for those events than even trying to plan the travels. And even if I went to LA, I would not have any personal days or vacation days. Because I work part-time, I would switch my work days. My parents would pay for the flights. And as it turns out, the last time I have ever flown international before COVID began was December 8th, 2019, on a 17-hour flight on Emirates Airbus A380 from Dubai to Los Angeles.
Wow. Yeah, that was that's quite a that's quite a haul there. I mean, and of course, my dad was my dad frequently traveled internationally for his work for 35 years. He was a vice president, but I mean, like yourself, David, I mean, and pretty sure some of you on here, I'm of course a very big traveler, and I actually had several events planned for 2020 that ended up getting scrubbed. For example, I'm a core team leader with the Autism Tree Project Foundation, and we were supposed to have a Sweet 16 gala in April of 2020, but ultimately that never happened because of the pandemic. So, and I actually was on the last time, and of course I didn't get on a plane until December of 2020 when I went down to see my nieces in Virginia, and my youngest niece was born in May, so it was my first time seeing her. So from a travel aspect, the pandemic really took a bit of a hit on me. So thank you, David, for sharing your story, and of course thank you, Tom, for sharing your story as well. So who would like to go next? Paul?
So I work in the medical field. This is my 10th year working in medicine. I work as a medical records, and just this past year I graduated with a degree in medical billing and coding and passed my certification. When the pandemic happened, I just thought, oh, it's just going to be like Ebola, because Ebola was just like that. But prior to the announcements of this pandemic happening, I was watching something on Netflix called Pandemic, ironically, and it talked about the 1918 pandemic, and then how we're not, and it tells us how we're ill prepared for it. I was like, how ironic! I was watching that before this happened. But as regards to masks, I just feel like it's necessary. So it took me a week to get comfortable wearing a mask. And then just this late last year, I was asked to help with a conjunction with Autism Speaks and University of Florida to survey campaigns for autism families and autism people with autism and their families to get the COVID vaccine.
That is, that's kind of a, twofold because you also have to remember that, not everyone, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you listening on here probably know that not everyone's going to want to take a vaccine, whether it's, and it's, when it comes to taking the COVID vaccine, it's their personal choice, and not everyone is going to want to take it for a variety of reasons. But
the reason why I'm pro-vaccine is because I have seen the anti-vax movement up front, and it really angers me. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot of op-eds from doctors who have quit the medical profession because of the anti-vaxxers. So I totally get where you're coming from, by the way. Just wanted to say.
Yeah.
I get the frustration.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. And there's people that I work with that refuse to take a COVID vaccine. I'm not arguing with them. I just respect their decision. However, I wish they got the COVID vaccine. That's where I'm standing on that.
Yeah. The key factor is really more about respecting people's decisions. That's one thing that I think a lot of people tend to forget. But it's
I'm more to the people that spread the lies and stuff. That's where I draw the line. If you just don't want to take it, that's fine, but don't spread your lies about misinformation about medicine. Because
that's the tragedy of our current times, though. This got really politicized.
Yeah.
Well,
From the Getty app.
no. This is before the pandemic. I had someone I really trusted was also anti-vaxxer. Then I found out she was also anti-Semitic.
Thank you, Paul, for your insight. Mark or Natalie, do you guys want to share your stories?
If Mark doesn't mind, if I can go next.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so when it all started, I kind of knew that things were going to change and not for the best. But like when it all started and we're all quarantined, like I just felt like everything that I was doing in the beginning, like doing some modeling, acting, having a lot of these opportunities, and to just like be cut off from everything, and including with interacting with people and outside of my house. Like the only time of interactions that I have with people nowadays is just through Zoom, and like especially since then, like now the only thing I do nowadays is, even though I am trying again to try to get back to do more modeling and acting, is mainly through just being on the internet. And like all I see nowadays is just talk about whenever it's due to COVID-19 or just something more negative, and it just puts me in a really negative headspace for me. But then like after in last year, both my parents, my mom actually, she was the one who caught COVID first, and then my dad caught COVID from her. And like those weeks, like I was just, me and my other family members, we were taking care of both of my parents, and my mom started recovering, but my dad wasn't. And I just knew that something wasn't right with my dad because of how he was just not breathing properly, and how he was just repeating certain words. And like I told my dad, hey, I think you need to go to the hospital, because he just wasn't recovering. And he said, no, I don't want, I just want to sleep. And I told my mom, I expressed my concerns to her. I told her, hey, I think we need to take him to the hospital. And she's all like, we can't, because he doesn't want to go. We can't force him to go. And as that day went on, like my dad was just not getting better. And then my mom decided, okay, fine, we're going to take him to the hospital, but he couldn't get out of bed. And I immediately called 911, and I'm like, we need an ambulance right away to take him to the hospital right now. And by the time the ambulance came, when the ambulance workers, when they came inside the house, like they noticed my dad just was not breathing. He was out of it. And like they started performing CPR on him just to make him conscious, just to get him breathing again. And they put him in a stretcher, and they took him up. He was up, his his bedroom was upstairs, so they had to literally take the stretcher from downstairs, bring it upstairs, put him in the stretcher, and then take him downstairs carefully, and then they just put him in the ambulance. And I was just like so worried what was going to happen, and I had to pick up and me and my sister, we had to pick up my other sister from work, and we had to explain to her, Dad's on his way to the hospital. And when we came back home, my mom told me that Dad was gone, and I lost it. Like I just knew something was not right, and I expressed my concerns, and I just felt like, had something just been done earlier, like I just felt like he would still be alive. Like I knew something wasn't right. Like I think to myself all the time, every day, you know, had they just listened, or, you know, have I done something myself differently? Maybe have I just decided to call 911 by myself earlier, maybe in the day, maybe he would still be alive right now.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, again, you know, again, Allie, you know, my condolences to you and your family on the loss of your dad. But I mean, it's a very you know, this whole thing is I mean, COVID is not something to joke about. I mean,
No.
if something were to happen, if you had any symptoms at all, you don't wait to go to the hospital. You go to the hospital immediately.
Exactly. You
And
just go. I don't care if it's just limited symptoms, you just go. Don't wait.
yeah. And
like even afterwards, like a few days after Dad died, like I started having symptoms of COVID, and then I went to go get tested, and I turned positive. The test was positive, and having COVID was one of the worst experiences. Like it's just really bad. Like for me personally, when I was going through it, like I was just coughing a lot. Like the coughing was just so bad. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And because of that, it did some damage to my lungs because of the coughing. Afterwards, I was dealing with the aftermath. Like I dealt with the wheezing within my lungs, and I had to start taking inhalers just for the wheezing to stop.
yeah.
And like other symptoms was just as bad. Like I was just really super tired. I constantly had to go to the restroom a couple times because I just couldn't eat properly. Like it was just really bad. Like I'm somehow like surprised that I'm still here.
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, and a lot of us, you know, have been, you know, and I'm pretty sure some of you in this roundtable have actually contracted, you know, the virus in some way. But I mean, I've been very lucky to have not gotten COVID. I mean, I'll get, you know, I mean, I probably will catch COVID at some point, but I think with the advances in medical science, it's been you know, it's going to be a lot more manageable in a way. And but it's just something that and you know, and that's one of the unfortunate downplays about this about what's been going on here. And you know, a lot of people are, you know, don't take this kind of thing seriously. And it's and this is why, you know, don't listen to what's going on in the outside world. I mean, just trust your own instincts. That's all that really matters, is that you have to trust your own instincts. And if you and the quicker you trust your instincts, you know, the better the outcome will be in the end. So thank you, Natalie, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And
Natalie, I am very sorry about your father.
Thank you.
Mark's turn.
All right, I don't know how you follow that. So I'll just try to keep it short and sweet. As someone that owns a kind of retail, you know, a brick and mortar place, and also being a fitness business, it kind of it shocked the business for quite a while, especially since it, you know, I opened it literally the year before. So 2019 opened the business, 2020 just getting, you know, where everything's going good, and then that mess happened. And then within a month, I had a bunch of personal changes because due to running a business, I had to choose either the business or living, independently. And so I had to give that up. And a few other personal things happened that kind of destroyed me mentally for quite a while. But thankfully, living in free Florida, I was able to start working within a couple of months, which I don't know if that was a good thing or bad thing, but it helped the company, which ultimately helped me because seeing my clients, being able to interact in person really helped me because my job's very social. I have to communicate with people daily, and just taking that away just decimated me. Um, but that's pretty much that story. And been very thankful to be able to build back and get to a point where now I'm in doctoral school and looking to do a couple other cool things coming up. So.
And thank you for sharing your story, Mark. And it's important to remember that the fitness industry was one of the industries that was hit hard by the pandemic because a lot of like gyms and stuff were forced to close because of COVID restrictions and the fact that the virus can spread easily in a fitness environment. So and and nowadays a lot of gyms and fitness businesses they're still recovering 2 years later from being shut down for an extended period of time. And of course and gyms are essential because we go to the gyms to exercise, to take care of our bodies. And when you can't do that, it's very, very it's difficult, and it's very, very and it's part of if it's part of somebody's routine to go to the gym every 1 or 2 days, and then they can't do that. So but yeah, I mean, and especially Mark, in your case, you probably had clients that would come to your gym as part of a routine and they couldn't do that. So it's a very I mean, it was, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was tough for your clients, especially because we neurodiverse individuals, we thrive on routine. And when we can't have that routine, it's next to impossible.
Amen to that.
George, do you want to tell your story, or
Sure. I mean, what's specific? Because a lot happened in the last 2 years.
yeah
Whatever's on your mind that you want to talk about.
I mean, because it was March 10th when it was officially declared a global pandemic, right? Was it March 10th, 2020? The official day was considered a global pandemic.
I think it was the 11th.
Well, whatever day. I mean, we're now up on the 2-year anniversary of life as we knew it ended. And for me, during this whole, just like you, I've been very lucky. I haven't gotten COVID once during this whole 2 years, but I'm as boosted and as vaccinated as vaxxed can be. And I took all the precautions. I social distanced. I limit who I hang out with, who I see. I try not to go into big crowded places still to this day. I think for me, the toughest thing about this pandemic was the introvert in me was just mine. Because there's a part of me that loves being alone. There's a part of me that loves being by myself. But then there is another part of me that is very extrovert and loves feeding off of people and loves feeding off of energy. And that part really struggled for me during the pandemic. And also during a time of uncomfort and little ease when we weren't sure what was going to happen, it was really hard to not be able to hug people. I didn't always like to touch people, but that was something that I acquired through, time and that was one of the toughest things for me, was not being able to hug somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think possibly the and a lot of people who, a lot of neurodiverse or who are sensory friendly, they, a lot of them, a lot of neurodiverse individuals, some of them have been practicing social distancing for even long before the pandemic, because we have a tendency to not, we don't want to be approached, we have very strong boundaries, and we have and not a lot of not a lot of us don't want to be you know social. I mean, we all have our, we all, some of us like to be by ourselves. I mean, it's just who we are. And I think we're professionals when it comes to social distancing, but for a lot of people that had to social distance, it was tough for them. And I think we're kind of like the examples of that. And I mean, as a self-advocate and public speaker, I mean, I do like interactions. It's part of my job as a self-advocate and public speaker to begin with. And I think it's hard. I mean, it can be hard sometimes, but you know what? It's part of my job. I have, I mean, I hang out with a few friends, every so often, and it's but a lot of times, if there are days where I feel like I want to social distance, then I got a social distance. So when this pandemic, when we had to social distance during the pandemic, this was no different. Let me tell you that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you can attest to that.
That's why I said it was pretty much down the middle. Like, half of me was okay with this. The other half was like, oh no, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do this.
I'm the same way. I was like, half is me saying, okay, let's go through this, and then half is saying, I want this over.
Yeah, it was an even split, because I'm half introvert, half extrovert. There's no in between with me.
Well, for me personally, before, like years before, because I just didn't really like being around a lot of people, just things that happened to me in school. But then thanks to modeling act, then I was able to gain a new perspective hanging out with people. And then since with the pandemic hit, like I just miss hanging out with people. Like I want to do more than just talk to people on Zoom. Like I want to be with people in the real world again. Like just have physical conversations, interactions. I want to give hugs again.
Yes.
Here.
When I did Hollywood Fringe in 2021, it was very emotional for a lot of us, because obviously 2020's Hollywood Fringe got canceled. So when we all got together, it was like, oh my God, I can see people. It's a person in the flesh. Oh, are you safe to hug? Okay, good. I can hug too. We can hug again. It was just, 2021 was very emotional for that reason.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure 2022 is going to be even more emotional. And
Oh yeah.
And also, George, to piggyback on your half and half. I mean, and Tom, I'm going to use a Batman analogy for since you're a big Batman fan. It's like the villain Two-Face. You've got one side that is bright colored, then you have another side who is dark colored. So it's kind of like it's that Two-Face kind of approach. And so but in that regard, even I would like to be social, because like I said, it's more in regards to my self-advocacy and public speaking. But there's the other side that wants to kind of take things slow when it comes to being social, take extensive breaks when I need to. So it's just it just is what it is. So
And I actually found myself forming some new routines once the pandemic started to end that I continue to this day. Like, for example, I'm about supporting small businesses, particularly in my hometown here. We're very entrepreneurial, very nonprofit oriented. So I took it upon myself to pick a different restaurant every week, every Tuesday specifically. And I'd visit that restaurant, order some food, take a picture of it, and put on social media so that these restaurants would continue to last through this difficult times. And been doing that every Tuesday for the last 2 years. And so I've visited over 100 restaurants in my hometown alone and taken pictures of their cuisine. Some owners were very grateful. Some of them got some more business out of it. I was even featured in a magazine from one of my little Takeout Tuesday reviews. And some restaurants sadly didn't make it even after my visit. But just knowing that I was out there making a difference and doing something new every week while also doing something kind of the same let me continue with my livelihood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and actually I've actually had to kind of, change course in terms of, why of my interests and stuff, because prior to COVID, I was in the Brony fandom, the My Little Pony fandom, and I would attend, Brony conventions. And even before the pandemic, started, when I first found out that Friendship is Magic was ending, I decided to kind of, look at different options. And, autism, education, employment, conferences, trainings, organizations, that's where my that I think that was where my true calling was. And I had to kind of, reevaluate myself in a way, what if I what can I get out of doing these, Comic Cons and, fan conventions? Maybe I could I get less out of them more than I do, like the autism conferences or like the employment conferences or the education conferences. So really, in a way, COVID was kind of, was kind of like helping me get a head start on where my true calling was. And Mark, even though I did MetroCon at Tampa back in July, that was kind of more of like, sure, it was a success, but I had to really think to myself, maybe this isn't the right fit for me. And also, large scale, conventions or any large gatherings, are very high levels for, getting sick to this day. I mean, like again, Mark, when I was at MetroCon, I wore my Twilight Sparkle mask. And I mean, even though it may go away eventually, but also when I get on a plane, even after the federal mask mandate expires, I'm still going to wear my mask because it's become almost a part of my routine. And also
I still wear I don't wear my mask a lot anymore, but I still wear it if I'm in a small space like an elevator or something.
yeah. And but
I mean, I'm gonna keep wearing them for as long as they are required, but I am looking forward to the day where, we don't have to anymore. But I know that other places are going to be different for how much longer. Like, I think planes are going to be like that for a while.
Yeah, it's true. Like at airports, they're still going to require you to wear masks, and I'm still going to wear masks wherever I go, even if it's in places that says you don't have to wear a mask. I'm just going to do it for my own protection.
Yeah,
As
I mean,
in-
kind of like how post 9/11, you can't get on a flight without taking your shoes off
Yeah.
anymore. I feel like there's
I think we're losing his connection.
I think we lost him.
My rule of thumb is that I wear a mask if the staff are wearing masks. Out of respect for the staff, I see employees, servers, what have you, as equals. So I want to share in that task with them.
Yep.
As an avid world traveler, I would wear my mask no matter what. And what I like about airlines is that they require all passengers and the crew to wear their masks at all times when going through any kind of travel security. Another thing that can be irritating, but what I do like is if a passenger refuses to wear their mask, they will deplane. And that is a good rule because that cannot be accomplished in the MTA, other transit systems, or even the buses. It's much easier to require it in Ubers, Lyfts, or cabs in those kinds of private commutes. And the only best public one would be an aircraft. Yes, I have flown on airplanes during the pandemic, but I would not be doing them often. And admitting that I was heartbroken for not traveling more than a year, I had to plan out other things that were going to benefit me. The first one is transformation. The second one is writing a book. And number 3, that would be still finding a way to get my voice out there on podcasts and new opportunities to share my story. And believe it or not, I lost over 45 pounds in 1 full year during the pandemic. I had to do all of it without going to the gym. And I accomplished it in 3 different methods. Fitness, doing exercises I would work my best with in all parts of my body. Second, diet. I document on a spreadsheet what I am eating, which is helping me be watchful about my dietary progress. So let's say if I ate pizza twice a month, that's okay. I expect myself to eat veggies around this time or so, but it all depends on what my stomach says. And everyone's metabolism is different, and I can only control mine and no one else's. Number 3, this is the biggest misconception when it comes to weight loss: sleep. If you want to lose weight faster, you have to get plenty of sleep. And I got at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So I do have a transformation photo on my phone and on my posts. And actually, March 8th, which was Tuesday, is the 1-year anniversary of publishing my first book, The Empowerment of My Condition, a book of poems, at least 20 or so, reflecting my autism journey. If you would love to have a copy of my book, please direct message me your addresses in the chat. And if you prefer to wait until after the call, please direct message me or contact me in any way. And then the third one, I have been a guest on over 10 podcasts. And my first one was with Thomas Iland on Autism Knows No Borders, discussing accommodations and requests in the workplace and education. And then that kind of gave me the idea to keep building on and on more. And then next thing you know, in April 2021, Jeff Snyder and I are now moderators with the Global Autism Project. And there is a lot more that we're doing together. As much as I'd like to share about how hungry I have felt to hug the people I love the most, because I love comforting them, my parents, my friends, that's something I would want to share later. But this is all about me right now and what I had to do for myself and change myself for the better. If I did not do the weight loss earlier, and I will be a quarter of a century soon, if I did not start my weight loss earlier or overcome my living restrictions, then it would be much harder for me to do it in the future. And now I see myself being 100 times more healthier since graduating college.
Wow, that's that's pretty impressive. Very impressive, David. So so we're getting close to the 1 hour mark, but I just want to thank you all very much for taking part in this roundtable, marking the 2-year anniversary of the COVID pandemic. And again, this was an idea that Natalie brought to me last month, and so I want to thank her for bringing this idea up. And if you guys are interested, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out my webpage, Going the Distance, on WordPress. And then like David, I contributed to a book called This is Autism by Jessica Leitchwise and Aidan Allman Cooper. It's on Amazon.com for $19.97. And if you would like me to sign you a copy at a future in-person event, please let me know and I'll be happy to sign it for you.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for helping me set this up. I couldn't have done it without your help.
No problem, Natalie. And thank you guys all so much for taking part in this roundtable, and have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone.
I want to thank you, Jeff, you and Natalie, for planning this. Little did we know that we would have anything like this. And what makes me feel so heartwarming is to meet others on the spectrum who are thriving in the community, like myself, no matter where you are and no matter where this gets shared. I look forward to seeing it. Natalie, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you too.
To learn about you. And I am excited for how our friendship will grow, just like it has done so with the others on this roundtable.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I actually just wanted to ask out of curiosity. Do you want us to do more meetings, or was this just to get a feel for everybody, or is there a project that's long-term out of this, or?
Well, this can be probably used as like a test run at some point. Maybe something can grow out of, this kind of, activity, but yeah, I mean, we can put something together, maybe once or twice a month, maybe once or every other month. We can
Yeah, we could try something.
yeah, we could try something like this. So,
and even then it could be about anything else that's going on, or whatever it is that we have our minds on.
yeah. So, all right, guys, again, thank you all for joining us, and follow us on our respective social medias, and have a great night.
Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
I love you all.